Well, my name is Beatrice B. Darlin Goodrich. I was born in a little town in upstate New York called Wells Bridge, and lived there all my life until I moved to Florida in 1987. I was born a minute after midnight on Christmas night, so they tell me. And my dad wanted to call me Christmas baby, and the doctor said, no way. So I had an older sister, Beatrice, who was two when I was born. And then Sue had two brothers. So there were four of us, very, very close. And then many years later, I was 13 when they had another baby boy, they were a little boy. And then 3 years after that, another little girl. So there were 6 of us all together. Of course, we always told the other two that they were spoiled rotten. Because they had it better then. When we were born, it was bitter depression. And the weather was terrible. I can remember the very, very coldest when Mother, she loved to read, and we'd all get around her, and she'd read a story, all right close to that oven door, because that's where all the heat was. I can remember that. She liked to read. She was a good cook, not a fancy cook like lobster, blah, blah, all that. Just a good old beef, mashed potatoes, gravy, and baked. She always baked. We had this little kerosene lamp. There was always a light in there. If we had to get up at night or something happened, there was always a light we had to go by, because there was no electricity. I was my mother. We had no electric dryers. In the cold winters, when she would hang these out, and they'd freeze before they get on the line. And for fun, we made our own fun. One person had a bicycle. We all learned to ride on that one bicycle. He didn't care. And summer times, we trudged over a lot of land to get to a swimming pool that was caused by a terrible flood and uprooted this huge, great big piece, and it left a swimming pool. We all learned to swim in that uprooted tree full of water. It was something. And the good days, we'd take sandwiches and go over and spend the whole day there. Nobody worried about us where we were or whatever we were doing. And then in the wintertime, up behind Wells Bridge, there was a man who had a farm, and there was a pond. And of course, it would freeze in the wintertime, the cold, cold winters. And we all learned to ice skate up there. It was nice growing up, but it was altogether different than now. But it was a depression, and times were tough. We didn't have nice furniture, but it was clean, I'll tell you that. It was clean, our house was clean. And but we didn't think we were poor, because everybody else is exactly like us. So it was just good growing up. Larry and his brother lived next door to the minister in the Baptist church. So Larry's mother was always getting to go to church. So anyway, they were having a Halloween party, and Larry was there with his twin, dressed exactly alike. I didn't know one from the other. I had no idea, I didn't even know them. We played this game where you go around in circles. You've probably had it. All the hands, you grab everybody's hand as you're going around in circles. Well, every time this one twin came to me and he squeezed my hand more. I mean, it was pretty obvious he squeezed my hand more. So apparently he thought I looked all right too. So I got to know him, and then he had a car, and we go to the movies. I mean, we were dating. That's how I met him. We were always fooling around, and he was always picking on me. We used to go to Oneonta and park on the main street just to watch people. We did. Everybody was doing that, just to watch people walking by, and we liked that. And we'd go out and eat once in a while, but nobody had that much. Nobody had money. I know the first job I ever had was 35 cents an hour. I worked in the shop. Have you ever heard of mica? It's a rock type thing, and it's mined in Canada. And it would come in big hunks, and it came to us in squares like this. And they used the mica to wrap around the spark plugs in an airplane. See, this is what we were, Bendix Corporation, for for the Air Force, the Army, whatever. But you had to get it paper thin so it would roll around the spark plugs. And it was tricky. And it seems that they were looking for somebody that could do typing and shorthand and blah, blah, all this stuff. And they found me. So I worked for 4 men. Of course, I was dumb. I never worked in an office before. Talk about being dumb. But this one man, he was so good to me. He helped me. And then Pearl Harbor came along. He was going to be drafted. Well, at first he went to the regular, like Fort Dix, and you do the usual places. And then they sent him to Fort Logan, Colorado. They had a lot of studying to do. So then Larry was sent to Ole Miss. He went to Ole Miss he was pretty proud of that. He went there 3 months. I have a picture of him. He had a stack of books like this under his arm, great big stack of books. And they told him if he didn't study, they were going to send him right in the parachute department, have him jump out of parachutes. He said, we studied, but he did. He came through with that and then they sent him home. We were married. We were both 20. We went from Unadilla to Oneonta and had it taken at the studio. So we were probably married 3-4 hours and that's it. Well, this was Easter Sunday before Larry went into the service, and we went to Hog Haver's for the afternoon for an outing, and had this pretty hat on, and a little bit later he went to get into the car and sat on it. So much for the hat. Behind the depot in Wells Bridge, Larry was very soon to get on the train to go to the service. Last one to get on the train. Right after they sent him overseas, and he went to England. He was stationed in England for 2 years. He worked in headquarters. He's the one that gave everybody their passes if they wanted to go out for the day or for the night. He's the one that wrote all the passes, and he had a lot of paperwork to do. But this was for a bomb squadron. The bombers, the big old heavy bombers that were huge. Of course, they went to Germany and bombed Germany is what they did. He was stationed in England, but he moved all over England because they were tracing him, so they had to keep moving. But anyway, he worked for this bomb squadron. So he said they'd send up a bomber, a big plane, and it would circle. And then they'd send up another one, and they'd circle. They kept circling and circling. Larry said he'll never, ever forgot that drone, that noise. Did I miss him? Sure. Oh yeah, we wrote back and forth. Larry was always a popcorn lover. They didn't have popcorn in England, so I was always getting popcorn. I was always sending popcorn to England. I bought this car when Larry was in the service. 300 miles. And I can't remember if I paid $500 for it or $300. Then he came home, and there was an opening in the post office. So my dad said, well, Larry, why don't you take that test? He had to take a test. And Larry said, I couldn't do that. He's only 24. He said, I can't. You think of postmasters as being older people. Larry said, I couldn't do that. You're 24 years old. So he ended up taking the test anyway, and he won. I think there were 5 or 6 others, and he came out on top. So he was acting postmaster for a year to prove that he could do it. And then they made him permanent, and he was there for 32 years. Baby boomers, that's it. And Dick was one. That's where everybody's glad to see their loved ones. I had Dick, Debbie, and then Greg. So anyway, that's my life. And now I'm 99. I've got a lot of memories.